We're always talking about moving things to the cloud. It sounds so simple, right? Like we're just tossing everything into this one giant magical box in the sky. But as we're about to find out, what's inside that box is way more complex. And honestly, a lot more interesting than you might think. Yeah, to the cloud. You've heard it a million times. It makes you think of some effortless, futuristic place where all our data just lives happily ever after. But the reality is, the cloud isn't one single thing. It's this huge landscape of different services, and every single one has its own rules, its own price tag, and its own unique perks.
So, to really get what's going on, we first have to understand that the cloud comes in a few different flavors. You can think of it like a spectrum, really. On one end, you're doing absolutely everything yourself, and on the other, everything is completely done for you.
So at the very bottom, you've got IaaS, which stands for Infrastructure as a Service. This is the most fundamental do-it-yourself level. You're basically just renting the raw building materials, the servers, the storage space, the network pipes. It's kind of like being given a plot of land and a huge pile of bricks. You have total freedom to build whatever castle you want, but you've also got to do all the heavy lifting yourself. Okay, one level up from that is Paas, or Platform as a Service. Now, in this scenario, the cloud provider gives you not just the raw materials, but a bunch of power tools too. We're talking about things like a managed database or a tool to run your code without worrying about servers. You don't have to build everything from the ground up, which means you can get stuff done way, way faster. It's like having a fully equipped workshop at your beck and call. And then at the very top of the ladder, you've got SaaS, Software as a Service. This is the finished product. Think about your favorite online tools or shopping websites. You just use them. You're not worrying about the servers, the code, or any of that back-end stuff. The company takes care of the whole shebang. It's like moving into a fully furnished house where everything just works. Okay, so once you get those different models, you start to see the real dilemma here, the single biggest decision any business has to make when they're putting their data in the cloud. It's this constant balancing act between how much control you want versus how much convenience you're willing to pay for. And this choice usually boils down to this: self-hosting versus managed services. Here's a good way to think about it. Do you want to own your own car? You get to pick the color, put a cool stereo in it, but you're also on the hook for oil changes, insurance, and repairs. Or do you just want to use a ride-sharing app where all you do is press a button and a car just shows up? Total control versus total convenience. So the first big trade-off you're going to face is all about price versus focus. Now, when you host something yourself, you're typically just paying for the raw computing power, and that can be a lot cheaper. But here's the hidden cost: your engineer's time. A managed service frees them up from the grunt work of just keeping the lights on so they can actually focus on what matters, building the thing that makes your business money. And this is where it gets really concrete. Take a look at these numbers, because the price difference can be pretty shocking. For a decent server, let's say with 4 virtual CPUs and 16 gigs of RAM, you might pay around $98 a month to run it yourself on something like Amazon's EC2. But if you want that same power in a managed database service, like their RDS, you're looking at something closer to $266. That's a big premium you're paying for peace of mind. Okay, another huge one: portability versus scalability. If you're self-hosting, your setup is usually pretty generic. That makes it way easier to pack your bags and move to a different cloud provider if they offer you a better deal. You're not locked in. But with a managed service, oh man, the scalability is incredible. Need 10 times the database power for your Black Friday sale? You just press a button. That kind of flexibility is a massive advantage. And that brings us to the last big trade-off: control versus support. When you self-host, you are the king of your castle. You pick the operating system, you decide when to install updates, you can add any special software you want. The downside? When that server crashes at 3 in the morning, guess who gets that frantic phone call? You do. With a managed service, you've got a safety net, a whole team of experts whose only job is to make sure that thing stays online. All right, so that choice between control and convenience is already pretty tough. But you know what? In the real world, the plot thickens because modern apps rarely live in just one simple, tidy box. They're often spread out across multiple clouds to save money or to avoid getting locked into just one provider. So this raises the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Once your app and your customers are all over the place, say some on AWS, some on Google Cloud, some on Azure, how on earth you manage all that data without your bills going through the roof? And get this number right here, it just blows my mind. Research shows that moving data between different clouds costs, on average, a jaw-dropping 23 times more than moving it around inside the same cloud. These network fees, they call them egress fees, are the secret money pit of the multi-cloud world.
This leaves businesses totally stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's a horrible choice. Do you copy your data to every single cloud region where you have users? Well, sure, access will be super fast, but your storage bill is going to explode. Or do you try to save money by keeping all your data in one central spot and then just get hammered with those insane network fees every single time someone needs to access it?
For the longest time, there was just no good answer here. You pretty much had to pick your poison and hope for the best. But some really fascinating new research is pointing toward a much, much smarter way to handle this. So what if the system wasn't static anymore? Imagine a storage system that could actually watch how your data is being used in real time and then automatically make the most cost-effective decision for you, second by second. That's the big idea behind a new approach called SkyStore. And it all comes down to this really elegant, surprisingly simple idea called the break-even time. It's basically the tipping point where it becomes cheaper to just fetch the file over the network again instead of paying to store a local copy. And the math is dead simple. It's just the network cost to grab a file divided by the cost to store that file. That's it.
And here's how that actually looks in practice. The system watches your access patterns, like how often is this file being used? It then uses that break-even formula to figure out the perfect time to live, or TTL, for a cached copy of that file. See those dots on the graph? The system's job is to find the TTL that puts it right at the bottom of that cost curve, saving you the most money possible.
So what this really means is you're not making that big, painful upfront decision anymore. Instead, the system is making thousands of tiny, smart decisions for you, all the time. It learns. If a file starts getting really popular in a new region, boom, it caches a copy there. And the second people stop using it, it gets rid of that copy automatically. So you're not paying for storage you don't need.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to end on. We started this whole journey thinking about the cloud as a set of choices we have to make, IaaS or Paas, self-host or managed service. But maybe the whole future of the cloud isn't about us humans getting better at making those choices. Maybe it's about building these incredibly intelligent, adaptive systems that just make the perfect choice for us automatically every single moment of the day.